Welcome back. It's time to move on to our next exciting topic. In this segment, watch our industry experts discuss the impact alternative and complementary medicine has on the world today and where it will lead us. I would now like to please request our session moderator to the stage, Mr. Alexander Koshevatsky.
I'll write it down and I'll give it to you. Give me 2 seconds.
Do you want me to sing and dance instead, Alexander? I wouldn't do that to you guys. I'm a horrible singer.
Good morning, IFAH, Las Vegas. I just want to say it's an honor to be here. Very educational. I've really enjoyed a lot of the conversations we've had. Today's panel will be about complementary medicine, and I'd like to invite our panelists up. Take a seat. I'll do a brief intro for myself and hand it over to them. So complementary medicine, also alternative medicine, integrative medicine, each of these are very broad subjects. I think these alternative forms of treatment are evolving every day, and we see that across the board. In my company, HealthFlex Home Health and Hospice Services, we've utilized massage therapy, ultrasound therapy. In our hospice division, we have a music therapy program as well as pet therapy. So it's just a wide range of services. We have a nutritional dietitian on staff that really works with our patients as well. And today the panel will discuss a few of these topics as well from their experience. I'll turn it over to the panelists to briefly introduce themselves, their companies, and how complementary medicine has been integrated into their practices. So I'll turn it over. Dimple, you can go first.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm Dimple Parmar, founder of Love Heals Cancer from India. And at Love Heals Cancer, we counsel patients and families in terms of how they can find a balance between mainstream and complementary therapies, and also exploring the emotional and spiritual dimension of any disease. So when we talk about complementary and integrative therapies, we always use the word complementary and integrative, or we also call it CAM therapies, complementary and alternative medicine. So these all are backed by scientific facts and figures. So empowering people with their own choices. There is an ocean of information around complementary therapies, but maybe it's not in the structured form and it's less trusted, but there are scientific facts and figures. So we tell people how this will help them in going through their illness and their, mostly it's chronic illness, and how effective that would be, or capturing data around the same. So this is what we do at Love Heals Cancer. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amanda Lucas, and I am founder of an integrative wellness company. I have a history of physical therapy, left the system, a lot of nutritional sciences, and alternative medicine, and I soon bridged over to wellness management, because it's really the marriage of conventional medicine, which is what we practice today in the Western, what's covered by insurance, versus the complementary piece. So complementary can be from food to herbs to homeopathy to, there's touch therapy, which is also in physical therapy. So there's a wide range. And so as a wellness manager, and we help the individuals try to discern what's going to fit for them without being extreme, because in any extremism it can cause more sickness. So wellness management, Amanda with Choose Your Health.
Hi, I'm Gilly. I don't know, you may have heard me on Tuesday. Co-founder and CEO of Sanotize. Sanotize is developing new ways to deliver nitric oxide to treat topical infections. Nitric oxide we all have in our body, and this is how this relates to this panel. So it's a molecule that we all produce in our body, but we have a way to deliver it topically in order to treat infections. And the major goal is to try and reduce the use of antibiotic. As you all know, AMR is a big antimicrobial resistance. It's very big word today in the world, and eventually we'll run out of options here with antibiotics. So nitric oxide seems to be eradicating all bacteria, including the drug resistance one, and viruses and fungus. And bacteria doesn't seem to be developing resistant to it. So the idea is to try and figure other way to deliver it and treat infections with a molecule that is all natural to our body.
Hello, this is Joe Laporta. I'm president and CEO for a company called the Healthcare Linen Services Group based out of the Midwest. We provide outsourced linen services to hospitals across the U.S. I'm also chairman of the board for a physical therapy group called Alliance Physical Therapy, where we have 85 clinics in 15 states. And during, each and every day, we constantly are evaluating new and different complementary therapies for our patients. Obviously, increases revenue streams, but also provides greater outcomes. So we certainly utilize complementary therapy at our physical therapy clinics.
Thank you. My name is David Dalton. I'm Chairman, President, and CEO of Univet Conglomerate, Inc. Univet Conglomerate, Inc. is a specialty pharmaceutical and cannabis company that has focused on medication for pain, addiction treatment through transdermal delivery technology, effectively the Univet transdermal patch. But what I like to do is to take you on a journey of how we got here as it relates to CBD. It started when graduation from West Virginia University as a pharmacist. Graduating from West Virginia University as a pharmacist, I matriculated into a company called Rite Aid Corporation. We started one store in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and over the next 18 years, I held every position at Rite Aid from an intern to executive vice president. The challenges that it presented was, how do you have 5,000 pharmacies in 23 states? And at that time, reimbursement has always driven what the market was going to be. In that situation, the pharmacist had the problem of filling the prescription and then completing a claim form. So that claim form had to be transferred into some automated mechanism. So we founded the National Council of Prescription Drug Programs that effectively is far ahead of what we look at as the electronic medical record in the environment today, hospitals, et cetera. Pharmacy has always been ahead of the curve as it relates to that. So we went from the universal claim form, universal tape, et cetera, to get pharmacy automation. So when you go into a pharmacy today, everyone talks about technology. Our technology effectively gave real-time adjudication to be able to bill and get paid while the patient is standing right in front of you. When you go into a doctor's office today, imagine not having to have redundancy on that. We then took the next step, and this journey gave me 3 Halls of Fame as well as the Senatorial Medal of Freedom to make change for the patient and not be concentrated on the dollar. The next company called Health Resources, which I founded back in 1989, effectively gave payment mechanisms for about 1.2 million people in the United States. Why was this change necessary? Because there was no true way to effectively get payment for indigent in the United States, because this was before the actual Medicaid programs as well as some third-party programs that was existing. And that changed the whole environment in pharmacy, because you went from a cash and carry to a third-party payment. So going on down the road to get us into the CBD arena is that we had been providing Johns Hopkins with methadone for over 15 years. That was maintaining the pain and the symptoms of addiction, but it was not really giving resolution. So we opened up our own CARF clinics, where we had a closed system to be able to monitor the true result of the CBD. In doing that, we wanted to make sure that we also had the research that we could rely on to make sure if we made a statement, that that statement would be true. So we have a company in Israel called Euromed, in which we have that tied into the Hebrew University for research. Israel has been ahead of the United States for cannabis for the last 20 years. So that when we look at what we say as our gold standard, it's based on research. So going through the whole change of things, a change of policy in the United States, being able to deliver CBD as we require a gold standard based on research, that's where we are today in delivering a complementary alternative to opioid prescribing. The CBD Univac transdermal patch has reduced the opioid prescribing in our clinics by 25%.
So I wanted to direct some questions to some of the panelists here today. I wanted to ask Joe, with such a vast experience, impressive background, and a wide range of products and service lines and startups, you've led a number of companies to tremendous growth. Tell us a little about the journey and how you see alternative medicine being integrated into the future of our healthcare system.
Sure. Thank you, Alex. As you had mentioned, I've had the opportunity through my career, my 28 years, working with a variety of healthcare products as well as services companies. And a couple of those companies, General Electric, McKesson Corporation, being a part of those larger organizations, you get exposed to a lot of new and different products and services and devices, et cetera. So there's many out there. And I guess just to kind of answer your question, I think consumerism is, especially with it, you know, we talked a lot about technology today and what the internet brings us. I think consumerism is going to be a key driver in the future. That's number one. My feeling is the consumerism will drive the need, and with the need, a physician interaction and education will come. I also believe that you know, the research and development continues to get better. And there's a lot of noise out there with complementary medicine and a lot of bad actors. So I think with research development, physician education, and consumerism, and once again, consumerism, I really believe will drive a lot of this into the future.
Talking about research and development, I wanted to ask Gilly, what does it take to bring something like your product to the market in terms of the research and development aspect of it?
So the way we started is we started as a full RX drug development company. And that's our experience that we know how to do. And that's, as you know, 7-10 years to get something. And on top of that, millions and millions and millions of dollars. So the research behind it is enormous, but it's also driven by FDA guidelines, which you have to follow. And they're amazing drugs that I've seen that never, ever see the day of light. So at some point, we stopped and said, 1 second, we're dealing here with a natural molecule, so why don't we do 2 paths, and we take one path direct to consumer. And we use our research skills, and we do research properly, and we do clinical trials, and we show efficacy, and we show safety, but you don't take it all the way to approval. You just do enough to know that you reached the point where it's safe, it's efficacious, and then you license it out. So I mean, we have some acne product that will be in the market soon, and that's just with a licensing deal. And it doesn't mean that it's not evidence-based, and I think that's the big difference. And what we need to focus here is there's a lot of complementary medicine that's evidence-based. And that's where the focus should be at.
An argument could be made that we see overprescribing of antibiotics when such alternatives such as your product is available. What are some of the benefits that you would believe over these more traditional
Well, the
product?
reality is the antibiotic are just not going to work forever, and we see a lot of cases, and millions die every year from resistant bugs. So I think there should be a lot more effort and funding into developing new antimicrobial. A lot of the large pharma companies will not put money into new development because they can't make money out of it. So there is no funding in this area. So that's part of it, is trying to find something. So nitric oxide looks like a very promising option. Right now, there are two ways to deliver it. It's either inhalation, where you breathe it, you can deliver it. There are trials being done right now with cystic fibrosis and NTM, or you can deliver it topically to where the infection, but there's still, it doesn't apply to every single infectious disease, and I think there should be more funding put into developing new ways that is a non-antibiotic antimicrobials, and I know there are a lot of promising options. There's just not a lot of funding.
I know we had some great discussions, and I'm just fascinated by what you're doing, and I hope to see it come to the market soon. I wanted to ask a question for Amanda. I know you have a great passion for holistic health. I know you do wellness management, coaching. You want to share a little bit about, how you use complementary medicine in your practice and with your clients, and the positive results that they've seen?
Sure. Well, it is very individual. I have a 77-year-old that his wife just passed away, and was on 18 medicines, and I worked on more patient advocacy and working with his digestion and foods. And so to me, that is complementary. There's a support piece there. On the other hand, I have a stage 4 cancer that she's tried everything. I'm working with her cancer physicians. I don't tell her what she should not take. I give her supportive, purposeful ideas on nutrition, and she's building a whole regimen right now, and she has a quality life. And so I focus on nutrition and elimination. I'm not a fad diet person. I am not well versed in homeopathy. Some herbology I am, but I don't focus on just herbs, because we have to have a complementary approach. We have sick care. That's obvious. But what I do and why I went to management is because if it's happening, and science has evolved, we're not bloodletting anymore. We have nanotechnology. So it's getting to be able to take those statistics and those longitudinal studies and say, hey, this is working. We can't see infrared. Well, most of us, I don't think, can. I can't. Unless it's a piece of coal, right? But that's not therapy. We don't go and touch a piece of coal. But there's confusion out there and legitimate questions. Ask anybody that's worked with me. I am the one that's like question. And at the end of the day, we have the millennials, we have the people that are trying to strive to find that purpose in their life and mental health and strive to do that, and we have these baby boomers. And all of them come from a different generation and see complementary medicine as a different approach. And you made a good point with CBD oil and people that are actually representing it when it becomes legalized. Is not what it's about. So there's so much false marketing out there that the black sheep, or the people that are causing the negativity in that field, is not really what it represents in its wholeness. So I focus on the management piece, and then I have a few clients that contract with me, range from all different ages and kinds.
And I know you mentioned you have a huge focus on the nutritional aspect, and I think that's been showing great results for your clients.
100%. Yeah, I have 100%. Each individual that I work with and client company I work with, I have 100% participation. And they find more purpose, they learn more about themselves, because when we are so obsessed, or not even purposely obsessed. I mean, genetic testing is huge. PGX testing. A doctor can prescribe a blood pressure medicine legitimately. And it may be because they have high blood pressure, they've changed their lifestyle. But why is it that they have to try 1, 2, 3, 4? If they understand the medicine is metabolized, then you're going to less appointments. You know that medicine is contraindicated with certain food. Vitamin C, if you have it with caffeine, it's a water-soluble vitamin. You're wasting your money. You're not absorbing it. So there's a lot of pieces that we we don't really know because there's so much out there. So each individual client I work, what their supplement regimen is. Do they even need a supplement regimen?
And it's an integrative approach, and I think it's something that should be long-term for the rest of their life if they want to carry on.
The tagline is guiding you to become independent with your health. I want to be your friend at the end of the day. That's where the passion is for me. If I wanted to make millions of dollars, I would have. But I need, for my personal being, it's the supportive services. People are needing insurance programs. That's changed. We were talking about that earlier. The financial health and food are the two pieces that people come to me with. And I don't have if I don't have the answers, which I don't have all the answers, I go to the experts. And hopefully, so they have more purposeful appointments and they understand their body, their food. If they want to be vegan, okay, but do you need more protein? We see a lot of hormonal imbalances there. So you have to make the choice. So.
Very good, thank you. Dimple, the next one's for you. As the founder of Love Heals Cancer and an entrepreneur and researcher, how has complementary therapy played an integral part in your story and how it helps achieve the mission and vision of your company?
Wow, that's a great question. Thank you. So, while working with patients and incorporating the angle of complementary and alternative medicine CAM therapies, the patients who have taken that approach has seen definitely good results compared to patients who did not, because most of the time we get questions on the therapies like how credible those are, and because most of the time the way it has been presented out there in the world is not the right way, and that is why people are confused who do not know about this area. So the way we do it, we have compiled last 100 years of research around individual therapies. So we have 100 plus therapies. So we divide those into 7 to 8 categories, which is your diet and metabolic approaches, and then you have different protocols under that. You have traditional medicine, so you have Ayurveda, naturopathy, Tibetan, Chinese under traditional approach. You have energy, exercise, and movement therapies. You have emotional and spiritual approach. You have herbs and supplements. So every individual bucket has many more therapies under them, and one person cannot do all this 100 together. That's where we help them in navigating them through these choices, and once they know their choices, they are empowered, as you rightly said. So it's all about taking control of your own health, because when somebody is diagnosed with a disease like cancer, they lose control of their own health. Their caregivers are making decisions for them, doctors are making decisions for them, and they all of a sudden they feel like, I'm useless. I don't have control over my own body, my own mind, and that's where they start losing the battle. And here we come say that, no, you are the one who is responsible for what happens to you. So you need to be empowered first. And then we give them their choices, and definitely they feel a lot better now. They know what they are doing and why they are doing. And so I call it 7 healing practices to live healthy. And it's a very, very simple practices. So those people who are not able to afford CAM therapies, because in India not everybody can afford that. So we say that start with one, but stick to it. The first step towards your health is to commit to what you are doing. That's the basic step. So if I have to express the 7 practices, it starts with eating well. Be mindful of what you are eating, what time you are eating, how much you are eating, and moving more, sleeping well, managing your stress, sharing love and support, creating healing environment at your workplace, at your home, wherever you are, and last but not the least, exploring what matters to you right now. So we work around these 7 practices. It's not just for cancer patients, but it's for all of us as well, because we all are going through some kind of stress, trauma, suffering, pain, and loss. So this is the preventive approach which we take. So yes, people have definitely seen benefits of these therapies, and that's where they come back and they ask more and more that I'm not comfortable with this particular therapy. Can I switch to the other? I can't do yoga. Can I do exercise, or can I do Tai Chi or something like that? So there are many choices available out there. You just need to work in the right direction and help them in healing. Yeah.
You mentioned something very notable. You said empowering them, and I think education is such a big aspect especially, or the lack of education. For when our company is receiving, discharges from hospitals, skilled nursings, we're seeing that the lack of the education to the patient is usually one of the primary reasons for readmission. And so I definitely would agree with you that continuing, yeah.
Yeah, one more point I would like to add here, talking about the education. So we have programs for healthcare professionals as well, because they also agree that we have learned one part of allopathy, not even complete allopathy, and this is like a complete different field you are talking about altogether, which we are not expert in. Plus, considering the doctor-patient ratio, they don't have time to talk about, and that's where they say that we need more people like you, more initiatives like this to come and talk about integrative approaches to healing, so that we also learn. And so we have programs for doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals where they learn about integrative approaches so that they can talk to their patients about it. And research shows that in America, 64% of people go for CAM therapies, while in India it's more than 80%. So your patients are anyway doing it, but because of this doctor-patient barrier, and because doctors are not really comfortable in talking about it, there is a huge barrier, and then you don't share everything with your healthcare team, and that's where the trust and the belief starts fading away. So in order to build that good relation with your healthcare team, it's important to talk very openly about these things, and that's where we educate doctors on this completely different approach of healing. And even we have programs for medical students who are learning, who are just studying medical system, and then parallelly they can also learn about complementary and integrative approaches of health and healing. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned barriers, and kind of leading into my next question, and this applies to everybody, I think. What do all of you see as, the primary barriers for implementing, practicing alternative complementary medicine and bringing it to more mainstream?
Well, one of the things that I see, and I think it affects everyone here, is that the patient has to have access to the wellness programs, the education, the product, the distribution. But what happens is there's barriers that are created. We heard about nitric oxide being a better alternative, which I think it is, because it's not just the antibiotic that's prescribed, it's also the prednisone that goes along with that creates additional side points. But the wellness movement is making a different movement. Because of the wellness programs and money being funded for wellness programs, just like CMS right now is paying for pre-diabetic programs, significant funding for that, that will get an opportunity for the barrier to be removed, because the consumer patient is looking for answers. And those answers are going to be every day, how can I take care of myself? Univec's purpose is to make change so that our 70,000 pharmacies can be an advisor. You ask your pharmacist, I think that's a trusted entity. And in getting that information, if the pharmacist does not have access to the medication, there's a problem. That problem is government policy. In the government policy, what happens is CBD is an example, which is now legal throughout the United States. Last year was not legal until the Farm Bill was passed. So until we see policy changed so that products that are not dangerous has a less barrier of entry into the marketplace, until we see reimbursement on wellness programs, because individuals are educated to get that information to the patient, to empower the patient instead of barriers, I think that's the primary push that we need to give.
I just think reimbursement is a big part of this, right? If we get reimbursement for non-drugs therapies, that will change. So it's changing policies, and changing policies, unfortunately, just take forever. But that's where we should all inspire for. And I think the more we show that all these options are based on real research, and that will drive this force forward.
I would only add, and I think it's been said, but you know, physicians are data-driven. Insurance carriers are data-driven. So I think the answer lies in the data. And that's probably a key opportunity is to really develop a path and a process and the funding to identify those best few and support those therapies forward.
So I think we have I think we're saturated with knowledge. I think we have an immense amount of knowledge. I think not only that, but so many things are marketed. People don't know what to do. People don't know what's right, what's wrong. They're taking one supplement, they're not finalizing it. I mean, echinacea, people take when they get a cold, but echinacea is supposed to be something you take on a regular basis if you're gonna do the herbs. So they don't even take their depression medicine. So they're taking their depression medicine and they feel better and they quit their medicine. And they don't tell their physician. So there's this large communication gap that outside of policy, which is huge, that we have so much knowledge. You talk to a smoker, so I do have an integrative wellness company, because wellness programs don't work. One, because they're not funding, it's subjective data. People are already tired and stressed, and now their employer's telling them to do something, okay? So the last thing they want to do is figure out this wellness program, the old wellness way, okay? And what is wellness today? So you go to, I talk to somebody, and I know they're a smoker. Most smokers don't want to smoke. Is it a physiological barrier? Because nicotine is what's addicting. The smoking is what kills, okay? Most people don't know that, and they feel very weak. So I'm not gonna sit there and tell somebody, do you know the statistics that smoking is bad? They know. Most people know. But I'm gonna say, when you're ready to quit smoking, I can give you some information. But again, you can go get this information, and any addict, whether it's peanut butter or being a marathon runner, I was a marathon runner and I was addicted to marathons, is not healthy. It's being able to be kind of centered and start not only having the knowledge, but having the support that's not beyond cost. So I do think that knowledge is there. We have new knowledge that needs to be backed up. How do we change this paradigm shift?
I did want to add, I would agree. There's so much information coming at the consumers, and it's mixed messaging. Not all of it is true and accurate, backed by various methods of trial and error. And I think that, yeah, you're right. They are very confused. They don't know. They're jumping from one thing to another, that's not the right approach, I think. So that needs to change, and we need to have a better stream of accurate information presented to them.
I wanted to add one more thing here, why people are not easily able to trust these things, because some of the things which has worked on one patient might not work on other exact same way, but when they see that, okay, X person has started lycopene, I'll also do that person has, seen good results, but I'm not seeing it. That's where they lose the trust, because most of the time people project this as a cure. Well, this is not a cure. This is just an additional benefit you might receive if you do it very religiously in the right way. So it's really a combination of your body, mind, spirit, your environment, and the 7 practices I just talked about. But because of lack of structure and lack of discipline and lack of commitment, and most of the time it could be your mental state you are in, and other factors as well. So not necessarily that the X person and Y person will get the same benefit, but we expect the same benefit, and that's where they lose the trust that, no, it did not work on me, so I'm not gonna trust it again. So while the message should be that it's always an integrated solution for you, so what your body says, what is your background, how you want it to be, it's always according to you, not according to what other person has done it. So this is where you, your family, your healthcare team, and everybody else should come together and then make a plan. And then if that's not working, then you do the changes and make another plan for that. So, yeah.
And that's exactly correct, because access to the information backed up by a professional that's done the research is critical. We have virtual medicine in our company. We have Wellness Teledoc. Our Wellness Teledoc not only includes the physician, but it includes the pharmacist. So there's two reviewing the patient profile before something is in fact recommended for that. In the wellness programs, whatever product is there, that's reviewed also that the general public would have confidence in what is being said to them, backed up by the research, for them to feel very comfortable with that.
I did want to add another question that's quite interesting for myself and I think for many others. We're seeing the epidemic of the opioid crisis in our country and many countries across the world, and I wanted to ask, how does alternative medicine and maybe more specifically CBD play into maybe some sort of addressing the issue, or I don't know if there's a way to fix it at this point, but.
Well, I made a statement earlier as you should depend on your professional to give you advice as to what you should and should not do. But in the case of opioids, that's a whole different story, because the physicians created a problem because of the manufacturers educating the physicians to believe that the research that was presented was true. So bottom line today, the opioid epidemic is created because of the manufacturers of that product. Secondly, the alternative medicines have been solutions. In our environment specifically, we have a closed system so that we know the research that we're doing is correct. By that we mean that we manufacture the product, so we know the quality. Our pharmacies dispense the product. We then even pay for the product through patient assistance programs because a lot cannot afford to have access to the alternative medicine because it's not reimbursed by insurance. We have a closed system for that with virtual medicine as well as the actual physical component, tied into wellness programs, because mind, body, and spirit is critical to the holistic way to get better. In our clinics, which are CARF-accredited clinics, we have been able to reduce, again, the opioid prescribing by 25%. That's our own research. We don't have to go out and ask anybody that. So if we can reduce opioid prescribing with our Univec transdermal patch by 25%, we know that that's an alternative and it's working.
I just think it's really exciting to see this change that's happening now. It's funny, I grew up in Israel and moved to Canada, and those probably the two countries that are leading this research in the world today. And I've seen this research coming up in the last 20 years, and it's been suppressed the whole time. And now that it's allowed to come up front, there is a whole bunch of research data that came out that when you look at these data and you start figuring out, okay, yeah, it's not one fix all, but if you look specifically at pain management and you look at how much data and research is behind it, then that definitely helps in bringing it forward.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting, and we're only seeing it accelerating now, so that's definitely a positive. Amanda, did you want to add something?
Yes, I'm going to add, because the opioid epidemic is not, I work with pain management physicians, and they're trapped because they're used to these patients coming in and expecting the opioid. And if you're on this long time, albeit, then you have constipation issues, then we have hernia issues, we have a long-term problems of addictions. So there is, again, CBD oil does work, but how do we bridge the gap from people that are addicted? And then some people go to surgery, you're given fentanyl and you're given medicine, but why are they not addicted, okay? So there's behavior, there is emotions, there's a lot involved. There's expectations on our millennials and younger. I have a bunch of boys. I've seen 3 people die of it in our city good kids that become highly addicted, not knowing. But yet there's, let's not add more laws. Let's work on the laws we have and then build phases for support so we can get the nitric oxide, the CBD oil, because people are used to having something right now. It's the world of today. So complementary medicine, which I think is going to be long-term, complementing to supporting, not a fix. We can have a quality life, but how to do that is taking the phases to get there and building that versus what's the solution right now. Well, the solution is building the phases, taking the steps, educating, not only educating, but supporting those.
Absolutely, very good. I was told we have limited time, so I do want to turn it over to any questions that you may have for the panelists.
First and foremost, I want to tell you, I love everything you said. Everything, the whole panel was amazing. I appreciate it. My name is Edward Wallace, AKA Wallis. You might have seen me out there doing massages. But I have a question for you, doctor. Do you feel that there is any long-term problems with CBD? I mean, we've been doing a lot of old medicine for quite a while. Now we're finding out that there's a lot of problems in addiction. But do you think there's going to be any long-term?
If there were not the research being done in Israel since 1967, I would not be able to answer that question. I can answer that question now because the research has been done for so many years. And also in 2017, the university in Israel has created a center that effectively does research on CBD, THC, and other cannabinoids. Right now, they have 27 researchers in that center. The long-term data that they have shows that CBD, a plant-based remedy, is not addictive. You cannot overdose on it, and it does have resolution and answers for the addict, because the addict, this is a disease. Keep in mind, this is a disease. It's not something that you just can treat with the counseling. It's a physical situation that you have to have counseling along with the appropriate medication. So no, at this point in time, my answer would be there's no long-term effect that's negative on CBD.
That's amazing. That's amazing. On a lot of the massages that I did out there, I actually incorporate the CBD oil, hit some areas of some pains, and I would honestly say that, in my studies and my research, I would 100% agree with you. If you don't mind me telling you a little bit about my company, it's Feel Good, Looking Good is the name of the company. We do massage. Everything that each one of you said, we incorporate every single thing, so I'm not going to even go into that. That's exactly the direction that we're going, because I believe that even a simple touch can heal. So if you pay attention to someone and expect that, it can make an amazing difference. I think, in my opinion as well, some of the things that we can incorporate, if you don't mind me saying, is a little bit more PE, a little bit more athletic attention, whatever it is, kayaking, walking, swimming. We've taken that away from the kids, and I think that's something that we also need to incorporate as well as we drift them out of, the other addictions. So if you don't mind me saying, y'all have a blessed day.
All right, thank you. They did allow for one more question, and I see a hand up.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much, Charles Senesi. I should applaud the entire panelists for such a wonderful discussion. I work as a clinical study reviewer in Switzerland, and I was quite interested in the comment from one of our ladies, I think the first one on the right, about the clinical trials that you do, but you don't take the products or the marketing authorization. I don't know the reasons for that. My second comment is actually on the role of pharmacogenetics in patient outcome. I just completed my PhD, and my dissertation was looking at the various forms of genetic variations in the P450 enzymes that metabolize the medication. We all know that antibiotics, 80 to 90% of them are metabolized by these enzymes. And we have genetic variation. Each one of us You are either a slow metabolizer, which means you metabolize so slowly that when they give you a booster dose, you have exaggerated response and you have toxicity. Or you are fast metabolizer, which means you eat up your medication so fast, you are prone to resistance. It's a rapidly expanding area of medicine that is becoming a nightmare. I will not even go into the complementary medicine because that is it's too fearful for us in the clinical trials division. So my questions will be, to what extent are you taking consideration of this rapidly expanding area of pharmacogenetics and patient outcome? Thank you.
So I am not a geneticist, but I do work with MedTrait, which is, I partner with them. And if I can get, it only needs to happen once, the genetic testing. It's not genetic testing for algorithms if I'm going to have cancer or how to have the perfect baby. It's a very good tool when physicians are able to wrap their head around it to say, to rule out, if they start understanding it, a certain medicine that they metabolize or not, even with addiction. So if they know that they metabolize it too fast or don't metabolize it too fast, the medicine, let's say an opioid, that person, the doctor knows that, is going to look at alternative methods, maybe, hopefully, eventually, CBD oil, or other acute alternative methods other than an opioid. Same with blood pressure. If they know what kind of part of the genes are being affected, they're not going to give a beta blocker, per se. So they can own, so I think it needs to happen. When I can get one of my clients to go to get the testing, which is around $300, which is really not covering their cost, but that's what they're working with me to get this testing done, then it empowers the client again. It lets them know that, wow, it's not just me. I don't have just the problem. It's not all emotion. I'm not weak. They're like, oh, I'm fighting a physiological battle. My body doesn't do this. So, and then it gives them information. You have to have it once, okay? Unless, I'm sure in the future we'll have more snippets and being able to be tested. So I think it is a big part of our future and should be included in every profile at the doctor's level.
I agree, and I think there's a good example now with mental health and how they look at metabolism of drugs and targeting a specific drug to a specific person. We're all different. Every one of us body is completely different, and we metabolize differently. So I agree, that's really the future, and we start seeing it in different areas and how it makes an impact.
You know, it's the future through personalized medicine, but it's also been the past, because for the last 15 years, I've worked with the Genetic Disease Foundation out of New York to address certain situations, as well as I'm on the board of University Biopark in Maryland, and we have the Genome Institute. So these changes that are happening is that medicine is going to become more personalized, and again, it's driven by the reimbursement money, and I look forward to the day that the healthcare system puts the patient first, but that's not happening yet. The personalized medicine today is here, but it's just not being transmitted into the healthcare system. In 2 years, we'll have a different conversation about that. But more medicine is becoming personalized, even from the drug therapy to the physical, mental process that it supports that individual.
And I think we are seeing a more adoption of the value-based purchasing. I think it's trickling down from Medicare, and so we hope to see more of that. Just some final thoughts. I hope that we can all take back a little bit back to our communities and our, the doctors and healthcare professionals in our communities to continue educating and continue the advancement of complementary medicine. And I think we'll see great results, hopefully, in the next few years, in the near future. I want to thank all of the panelists here. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for providing the information. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Okay, great job, guys. Thank you.